Do you feel like you're adding all the right self-care things to your life, but you're still just feeling burnout and you're not sure why? Well, it might be because you're missing this one key component to self-care. So if your self-care routine is filled with bubble baths and journaling and candles and crystals, those are all wonderful things. They really are, but they don't work on their own. And what you might be missing is boundaries. I consider boundaries to be the ultimate act of self-care. If you're not setting boundaries in your life, you aren't protecting your energy and you're really not looking out for yourself. Traditional self-care practices, they're great and they do work. And I'm somebody who sells self-care products and I make self-care products. So I very much believe in them and I know they work, but you also can't just set a crystal next to you and take a bubble bath and think that everything is just going to be perfect and you have a great self-care routine and everything's going to work out great. It takes a little bit more than that. So those are all wonderful things, but you have to pair them with boundaries. I'll give you a little example on this. As far as boundaries in personal relationships go, that's something that I feel is probably one of the places that we get affected the most if our boundaries are being crossed. Because the people we spend our time with the most, if our energy exchange between us isn't feeling equal, and it doesn't always have to be 100% equal, but if one person is taking all the energy from the relationship, your boundaries are being crossed in a very big way, and it's going to just burn you out. You're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel exhausted. Back maybe at least 15 years ago, I had a friend who was going through some really, really big stuff in their life. Like it just seemed like nothing was going right. Every time I talked to them, it was this huge story of everything going wrong in their life. And I'm one of the people in all my friend groups where people come to me for advice. They come to me just because I'm a good listener. And I provide advice and listen to them without judgment. And so I love doing that. But it also sometimes can be taken advantage of. And that's on me because I didn't set clear boundaries. At this time, like I said, it was at least 15 years ago, probably more than that, honestly, maybe even closer to 20. And I had somebody who it got to the point that when I would see their name show up on my phone, I just got this feeling of dread of like, oh, this is going to just be so draining and it's going to, like, the whole rest of my day is going to be impacted. But because I didn't really know about the importance of setting boundaries back then, and I didn't have any boundaries set, I would pick up the phone and I would talk to them and I would let them talk for an hour, sometimes more. And I would hang up that call just feeling exhausted. And then the next day it would happen again. I went through many, many years of that. Let's call it another decade or so. And it wasn't until maybe 3 to 5 years ago, I was at a similar point where I just had a lot of friends going through very big things, very heavy things. And I wanted to be the good friend and be there for all of them no matter what. And it got to the point where I was just feeling the weight of everything they were going through and feeling such a responsibility to be the one to help make things better for them, which I can offer advice and lend an ear and all those things, but ultimately it's not my responsibility to make them feel better. And so I had to make myself feel better. And it was really one of the first main boundary setting that I had with friends. Like I'd set boundaries with friends in the past and they had just like blown up. And those friendships don't exist anymore. I think because I didn't quite know how to set them in a gentle way or explaining it from my needs. And I kind of let it get to a breaking point when then I just exploded. And when you're setting boundaries in relationships, whether it's friendships, family, romantic partners, the words you use and really explaining why this boundary is needed for you, that means everything. So when I started doing this and setting these firmer boundaries a few years ago, some people didn't react well. And I don't have those people in my life anymore. And it's okay. And it's actually been a blessing. But then the other people who did respond to it, there may have been a little bit of strangeness and our relationship was a little bit different for a while. But over time, those relationships have gotten so much stronger because now we're not just having a little bit more of an equal friendship where we're equally there for each other, but we're so much more aware of what the other person needs in the relationship and how to support each other. So that's one place where boundaries can really be this beautiful thing where you're actually helping grow and build a relationship. So one of the things about self-care, and specifically in regards to boundaries, is that it's really about managing your energy. What most people think of with self-care, they think of those traditional things like, oh, I'm going to take a bubble bath, or I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to journal. And those are all absolutely wonderful. They are forms of self-care. But if you're not also providing self-care energetically and managing that energy that's coming to you or leaving you, they're just not going to work long term. Of course, if you take a bath, you're going to feel relaxed. If you build a beautiful crystal grid, it's going to probably put you in this relaxing state. Like I love doing those things. I like rituals and things like that. And that time, maybe 3 or 5 years ago, I was doing a lot of that. I was very good about rituals and taking time for myself. And that was why I was struggling with like, why am I so burnt out still? And why isn't this working? And that was when I was realizing that it was the energy I was giving was so much more than what I was receiving. When you are saying yes to things or people or situations that are draining you, you're doing the opposite of what you need to do for self-care, which is nourish yourself and nourish your energy. So you just have to set boundaries not to be restrictive, but so that they're restorative to your energy. When you're saying no to the things that are draining you, or you're setting a firm, which it could be a gentle boundary. You don't have to be like harsh. It can be a very gentle boundary where you're just explaining what your needs are and how your energy needs to be met. It can really replenish you. Boundaries don't have to be limiting. They can be what help you grow, and they nourish your soul, your energy, and they just really bring you more peace in your life. I love crystal grids. I make ritual herb blends. I love candle magic. Like I love doing rituals. And I feel so much peace and I feel all this love, and it really does replenish me. But if as soon as I finish a ritual, I'm responding to all these urgent messages, whether from clients or friends or whatever it is, all that peace goes away. So even when you are doing these self-care routines and these various things you do, maybe part of it to work on your boundaries is setting time around them and setting a boundary that when you do them, you're fully present and you're not letting yourself get pulled right out of it and back into the craziness. One thing that could be really good if you're kind of like, I know I need boundaries, you might know some of them you might be struggling, is you can put together, essentially it would be like a boundary inventory sheet. It sounds weird, I know, but the way you can do this, so you just kind of create 2 lists. You make a list of the things that drain you. Things, people, situations, just create a list. What are the things that drain your energy? They drain you emotionally or physically or mentally. Start a list. And now start another list of all the things that nourish you. The things that you just feel fill your soul with joy, they energize you, you feel like you're just bursting with happiness and positivity. Have that list. Or they can be, one list with columns side by side. Whatever works for you, doesn't matter. But have a list. What drains you and what nourishes you. And I want you to look at that list of what drains you. And that's where there are opportunities to set boundaries, because we want to move as many things that are on that list off and turn them into things that nourish you. Starting there and kind of just seeing what needs to shift. And you might find that A lot of them are all around one aspect of your life. Maybe they're all completely different. Maybe they're very specific and they involve certain people or your job or a situation you're in. And if that's the case, it's easier to find the boundary and set it. But doing that is going to be your first step. And then also working on saying no to things, to people, to things, to, requests. And this doesn't have to be this harsh no. It can be this loving no, but really just practicing saying no. And this kind of goes back to the video where I talked about people pleasers and how we have this tendency to say yes to things and it drains us, and setting these boundaries can be so empowering. If you are someone who struggles with saying no, one thing that you can do is schedule one day, just one day. Even if you do it for an hour, but ideally for an entire day, I want you to say no to as many things. And not like, don't say no just to say no. If it's something that you're like, oh, I can do that, or I want to do that, say yes. But if it's something that you genuinely do not want to do or experience or partake in or be part of, whatever it is, or you just don't have time, I want you to take one day and say no to all those things. And it doesn't have to be a straight no. It could be, let me get back to you, where then you sit with it if you're not 100% sure. But if not, you can say no in a very gentle way of, oh, I'm sorry, that's just not going to work for me right now. Or thank you for thinking of me. I don't have time at the moment, whatever it is. And just working on saying no and seeing how that feels. Another thing is that I don't know if you clear your energy, but that's something that is really, really good to do. It's good to do at the end of the day, no matter what. Energy clearing can be done in a lot of ways. It can just be an intentional thing that you set. You don't have to have any fancy tools or things to use. You can just visualize yourself, just, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just envision your energy just from the top of your head down. Just see it clearing and releasing anything that's no longer serving you. And you can do that and just envision things flowing out through the soles of your feet, or you can see a grounding cord dropping down from your spine. Really just grounding and clearing is wonderful. You can also use dried herbs like dried sage to cleanse your energy with smoke, or things like Palo Santo. If you are buying sage, Palo Santo, make sure you get them sustainably. Don't go to Amazon or places like that. You can also use sound healing. So you can either go to a sound healing to clear energy, but at home, like you can, if you have a drum, if you have a rain stick, it's just about clearing the energy. And, you can also get energy healing. Reiki is great for that. Crystal healing, things like that. And then really just allowing yourself to know it's okay to say no. It's okay to set boundaries. Maybe you have affirmations you repeat to yourself, whatever it is that works. But it's just really about looking at that list you create. Put your boundary list together. What drains you, what nourishes you. See where you can shift things. Clear your energy regularly. Schedule your day of saying no. And just see how all this feels. Once you get to the point where you're setting these boundaries, go back to your standard self-care routine, whatever that may be, and add a boundary to it. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, if you set up time to take a relaxing bath, you set a boundary that you're going to have your phone turned to do not disturb. You're not going to look at emails. You're not going to answer texts or phone calls. You're going to use that time for yourself. And maybe it's another 30 minutes afterwards to let it soak in, whatever that may be. And if you'd like, share below in the comments of what it is that you're working on. What is your ritual that you're combining with a boundary? How are you using these things together? And if you like this video, this is part of a 3-video series. So the next one will be coming up. So feel free to subscribe. Thank you.